This is Honors Geometry Lesson 4.6, Congruent Triangles. So we talked about congruent triangles. We said they have the exact same shape and size. And at first we had to check every single piece to make sure the corresponding sides and angles were congruent. And then we learned shortcuts that said we only had to check 3 of these pieces, and that would guarantee that the rest of the pieces were also congruent. We're going to use the fact that once we prove the triangles are congruent, all the other pieces are congruent too. And that's called CPCTC. And CPCTC stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Let me show you what that means. So they're asking us which triangles can we prove congruent and how in order to prove the statement. So they want us to show that angle A is congruent to angle D. I can see right away that they share the middle, so I know that I have side, side, side there. So I'm going to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DBC by side, side, side. Once I prove that those two triangles are identical, I know that corresponding parts, which would be angle A and angle D, are congruent by CPCTC. Even though it wasn't part of my original proof, I know that angle A's, angle D are congruent. Next one, I see a bow tie, so as soon as I see that, I mark my vertical angles. So it looks like we're going to have side angle side, side angle side. And even though it wasn't part of my proof, I now know that angle Q is going to be congruent to angle T by CPCTC, because corresponding parts, which they are, of congruent triangles, which we just proved, are congruent. This one, I see they share a side. I'm going to go ahead and slash that right away. And this angle is a right angle. I can assume that angle is a right angle too. And so it looks like we're going to have hypotenuse leg on this one. So I'm first going to prove the triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. And again, even though it wasn't part of my original proof, now that I know these two triangles are identical, I can now say that segment JM is congruent to segment LM by CPCTC, because I proved those two triangles are identical, so all of their corresponding parts also have to be congruent. Let's go ahead and write a proof. So this time the given information is just marked for us. They didn't write it down. That's okay. So we're going to start with our given information. It looks like segment SV is congruent to segment TU. That's part of our given. It looks like segment ST is congruent to VU, also given. So it looks like I have a side and another side. Right away I see that they're sharing the center, so I'm going to go ahead and slash that. That's our reflexive property. So I'm going to say segment VT is congruent to segment VT by the reflexive property. Now I can prove those two triangles are identical, they're congruent. So I'm going to say triangle STV is congruent to triangle, looks like S goes to U. It looks like my T goes to V, and it looks like V goes to T by, we said, side, side, side. I know I'm going to use CPCTC. Anytime they ask you to prove an angle or side's congruent, you're going to use CPCTC. So before that step, you have to use one of your 5 shortcuts: side, 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 angle, hypotenuse, leg. So now I'm finally ready to finish my proof. I say angle S is congruent to angle U. Why? Because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, and S and U are corresponding parts of 2 congruent triangles, which we did in step 4. Let's try another one. So again, as soon as I see they're asking me to prove sides or angles, I know my last step is going to be CPCTC. I know the step before that has to be one of my 5 congruent shortcuts, and you know you're going to start with the given. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, they just marked it for us. That's no problem. We're going to say angle N is congruent to angle P. Why? Because it's given information. We're going to say that segment NM is congruent to segment PQ. Why? Because it's also given. So right now we have, looks like we have an angle and it looks like we have a side. So we need one more piece. We know we need those 3 pieces. I see that we have our vertical angles. We have that hourglass or bow tie. So I'm going to go ahead, and to be lazy, I'm just going to call that angle 1, and I'm going to call that one angle 2. So I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. How do I know that's true? Because of the vertical angle congruence theorem. All right, and that's another angle. So it looks like we have a side, an angle, and an angle, a side, an angle, and an angle. That side's not between the 2 angles. It's not touching the angles. So we're going to call that angle, angle, side. Step 4 is my angle, angle, side. I just have to match up the triangles. It looks like NML is congruent. It looks like N goes to P. It looks like M goes to Q and L goes to L. Y by angle, angle, side. Now we just proved those 2 triangles are identical, so any of the matching pieces also have to be congruent. So they asked us to prove that LM right here is congruent to QL, and we're going to say that's true by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, CPCTC, and let's go ahead and just copy that down. LM is congruent to LQ, and we are done. Please try the practice exercises. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.